What's up, everyone, and welcome back to Movie Rays.
When the Vampire Diaries first aired, it became a huge hit that people till this day are fascinated by it and keep on rewatching it over and over again. Even though we might think that out of all the fates in the world, death would be the worst one, this show keeps proving to us that there are few fates where you would wish you were dead. So let's dive into the world of the vampires and tell you about the 10 Vampire Diaries fates worse than death. Number 10. Noise Weapon. Throughout the seasons of the Vampire Diaries, we are seeing all sorts of different weapons. Wooden stakes, darts, and even grenades. But the one we could rule out to be the extreme punishment and that will make you give up definitely has to be the noise weapon, or as known in the show, Gilbert's device. When this device is activated, it lets off high-pitched frequency, causing all of the supernatural hearing with the 5-block radius to become exposed. This torture device results in excruciating pain and can even lead to death at some point, but torturing someone with high-pitched frequency, causing them extreme amount of pain, is definitely a different kind of fate that most would say to be even more painful than death.
But...
Number 9. Turning off humanity. Having emotions is one of the things that makes us human beings, and even though these are vampires, most of them have actual emotions and feelings to help them make rational decisions. But from time to time, a vampire can turn off their emotions, or as we like to say, their humanity. When that happens, the vampire is left completely cold-hearted, not caring for anything around them, and it takes a lot to turn it on. Most of the times, the vampires turn off their humanity not by choice, but for the sake of torture from someone else. In the show, we can notice this kind of fate in Elena and Stefan, where in Elena's case, it was due to a breakdown, and in Stefan's case, it was caused by someone else.
Did I ever tell you how glad I am that you're dead? Oh.
Number 8. Injuries. You might think that vampires can't get hurt, and given that in the past vampires were portrayed like that, you have every right to think that. But this show turned things to a different direction, allowing vampires to feel pain, bleed, and even gain injuries. This form of punishment is literal hell for the vampires, and can even cause some of them to die if they are badly injured. The show lets us in on a new perspective where the vampires are more like human beings and showing how they handle these things. Broken bones and bruises are just part of the things that vampires can gain, and honestly, a vampire who can feel pain is definitely a new level of torture they have to live with.
I really think you should be thanking me.
Number 7. Cutting and herbs. Now, as we previously mentioned, vampires can feel pain, but not only can they feel every hit, they can also bleed. Now, why is this worse than death? Well, in one way, it can be used against the vampire as a form of torture, but if they lose a lot of blood, they can also go into a state of desiccation. But more on that later. Just like any human being can suffer from blood loss, so can these vampires. Alongside cutting them, vampires' most well-known weakness comes from an herb, or the vervain, which once it makes physical contact with the vampire, it will burn them, leaving them in extraordinary pain. The cutting and the vervain combined together makes one of the worst experiences for vampires where they would wish they are dead. Number 6. The Sacrifice Ritual. The entire scene where this ritual happens shows how much someone is willing to go to fulfill his need. Now, this ritual was a spell that has been attempted multiple times in order to lift the hybrid curse, which was meant to suppress the werewolf in the first hybrid. In the entire scene, we can see how Klaus sacrifices a werewolf and a vampire all for the purpose of his own desires. Even though it resulted in the death of 2 girls, the entire scene and the torture they went through makes it so much more painful than death. After their death, Elena was the one that should offer her blood, as he drained her till death. This fate definitely put a different perspective on the show. Number 5. Sunlight. We know that vampires are afraid of the bright sun, but throughout this show we can see that the sun doesn't affect them all the time. But that doesn't mean that it can't hurt them. Vampires are shown to burn once exposed to the sun, so in this show, that very thing is shown on multiple occasions. Whether it is accidental or on purpose, most of the vampires get exposed to the sun and get serious burns. Even though they can get severe damages from the sun, they can't be killed by it, and the ones that are still in transition can resist the effects of direct exposure. However, getting sunburn and having severe damage just from 1 minute or direct sunlight is definitely a painful experience to go through.
Saying that name.
Mom, please! No, you know it!
Number 4. Fire torture. As we just mentioned, vampires can get sunburned from direct sunlight, but did you know that in extreme cases they can even catch on fire from it? Now we can see this in the episode where Damon and Stefan torture Elena in order for her to turn her emotions on, and in a glimpse, we can catch her actually being on fire from too much sun exposure. Burning alive is definitely not something anyone wants to experience. Even if you are a vampire resistant to the sunlight, watching someone's body burst in flames is torture itself, and definitely presents something we can rule out to be far worse than death. The constant burning and flames on your skin will make you wish there was a way to end it. Number 3. Manipulating the mind. On multiple occasions during the show, we can see how certain people can use their minds to actually manipulate another person into something, or even cause them pain just by getting into their head. This ability can only be used by the immortals, vampires, and hybrids, as well as certain witches and sirens through spells and physical touch. Throughout the show, we can see multiple scenes where this ability is used to cause someone extreme pain and torture them just by using their minds. We can see this when Damon tries to torture Sybil, and it backfires into Sybil getting inside his head, and also when Enzo is being tortured by Sybil and Stefan goes into his mind trying to figure out what she is doing.
You'll be consumed with guilt.
Number 2. Immortality. The fate of immortality definitely has to be one of the worst ones out there. Being punished to live forever and go through every pain in the world has to offer for thousands of years. This state of living is only possessed by immortals, vampires, hybrids, and on some occasions, even witches. These immortal beings can't be hurt by any weapon. Even though they can bleed and feel pain, that is as far as it goes when it comes to killing an immortal. During the show, you'll definitely notice multiple scenes where at least one immortal being is included, but sadly, no matter how awesome it is to live forever and not be able to age or catch a disease, it can be quite hard to go through all the pain and torture of the so-called immortal curse.
I am immortal.
Number 1. Desiccation. This weakness of the vampires and immortals occurs to their bodies, causing them to go through a process where their bodies dry out due to the lack of blood consumption or blood in their system. Not only does it happen in this way, it can be used as a form of torture also, where if the body of the immortal is being drained from the blood, it will go to the state of desiccation. After a vampire has been desiccated for a long time, they start to look incredibly similar to a mummified body. The body stays that way up until a point where it begins to feed again, where they will go back to the way they were. On a related note, we wanted to know, which one of these fates do you think is the worst of them all? Let us know in the comment section below. If you'd like to see more amazing videos such as this one, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more amazing videos such as this one. And as always, thanks for watching, guys!